Creating fill-in-the-blank questions in new quizzes in Canvas. We'll start by creating a new quiz in the usual way by going to the Quizzes tool in the course menu, selecting Add Quiz, and selecting New Quizzes from the options provided, and then submitting. We'll call this new quiz New Quiz for Fill-in-the-Blank Tutorial. And we won't worry about the rest of this at this point. I will then go to Build to add questions to the new quiz in the usual way. I'll click on the Add Question button here, the plus sign, and select Fill in the Blank. I can add an optional question title, as I can in any question object in new quizzes. Then I can go ahead and type the text or the stem of the question. In this case, it would be something like, the third president of the U.S., comma, and now I want a blank for students to fill in. I generate that by typing a so-called backtick, this character, which is usually found in the upper left-hand corner of a PC keyboard, just below the escape key. And then I'll type in the correct answer, Thomas Jefferson. Hopefully spelling his name correctly. There we go. And then another backtick to surround that. That will generate the blank in the student question. And then we'll continue if we like and add more blanks. You can have as many blanks in here as you like. Was elected in the year, and then backtick 1801. And then close the backtick and a period. The question detects that there are two blanks, so it gives you two blanks to work with. And at this point, we've already entered our correct answers by typing those in between the backticks. A little different from the previous classic quiz fill-in-the-blank question in that regard. And now we're allowed to avail ourselves of some options for evaluation of these fill-in-the-blank questions. Used to be, we just had the option to enter some possible misspelled or mistyped answers. And it was impossible, of course, to figure out all of the ways that a student might mistype the answers to these questions, which, of course, greatly reduced the utility of these questions in objective testing in Canvas. But Canvas has gone to some trouble in new quizzes to give us better, if not perfect, options. First off, the question can be a true fill-in-the-blank question by allowing open entry here, which means students can type in anything they want. Or we can provide the students with a series of possible answers to be displayed in a drop-down menu, which basically would make this a multiple-choice question. Or we can supply a word bank from which the student can select possible answers. But if we want a true fill-in-the-blank question, we're going to leave this at open entry. Now we can tell Canvas how we want it to match the student's typed entry to the entry that we've given it. And there are 5 options there. The first one is, which is new, count as correct any answer that contains what we've typed as the correct answer in the production of the question. That gives us a little bit more leeway if the student adds an extra space somewhere or before or after the answer, or adds extra text or whatever, the answer can still be counted right. So that eliminates some possible instances where an answer that's essentially correct would be counted wrong by the system. Even newer is this close enough option. which uses a linguistic concept called the Levenshtein distance, which is an integer number starting with 1 and going up to whatever you like, which specifies the number of edits, either insertions, deletions, or alterations, the number of single character edits, insertions, deletions, or alterations necessary to transform the student's answer into the correct answer. If the Levenshtein distance is appropriate with what we select, the student's answer, even if not perfect, will be counted right. The default is a Levenshtein distance of 1, which means that one insertion, one deletion, or one change of a character, if one insertion, one deletion, or one exchange of a character will transform the student's typed answer into our correct answer, then the student will be awarded credit. Obviously, the higher the Levenshtein distance, the more elastic the evaluation of the answer will be. We can also tell the system to ignore case, which will eliminate another possible reason the student's correct answer or nominally correct answer might not be counted right. In addition to close enough, we also have the old standby exact match. If we tell the students they have to type something perfectly, and we give them the information they need to make a perfect selection, then we can insist on that. We can also specify additional acceptable answers and try to guess how the students might interpret our desire for an answer to this question. Or we can do what's called a regular expression match, which involves a serious set of symbols and evaluations which specify just exactly how close a student's answer needs to be based upon our assumptions of how the students might mess up. That is entirely beyond the scope of this tutorial and the understanding of this particular educator as well. Good luck to that. Good luck to yourself on that. I'm just going to select here close enough in both of these and leave the Levenshtein distance at 1. I do have options. Those options involve the provision of an on-screen calculator for this question. This would override the setting of this nature in the overall test settings that we can select. In this case, neither one of these questions would benefit from an on-screen calculator, so I'm not going to check that. And I could add this question to an item bank, a test bank, while creating it, if I wished. I would set the point value here as the last item. I can also provide correct and incorrect answer and general feedback for this type of question, should I wish, by clicking on this icon here, the little double document icon. And when I'm done, I just click done, and I can move on to the next question. This is what the fill-in-the-blank question will look like for the students, minus, of course, the correct answers. A little more information on that close enough option for matching students' responses with correct answers in fill-in-the-blank questions. I'm going to go back to my quizzes list, and I'm going to look at some submissions to a couple of sample fill-in-the-blank questions in other tests and show you how that close enough Levenshtein distance-driven evaluation works. Go to Student View to do this so we can see a series of student attempts. And let's look at several attempts on a question like this. All right, the question in this case was an attempt to evaluate students' ability to read a ruler. The question read, the measurement depicted above would be recorded as blank. The answer submitted as the correct answer was this one, 2 space 7/8 space inch, exactly, 2 7/8 inches, which is what is read here. So in this case, the answer was evaluated. The answer is exactly correct and was so evaluated. Take a look at attempt 2. In this case, the student left out a space between the 2 and the 7/8, but since the Levenshtein distance specified for this question was 1, that's just one character out of place. It's one deletion. I'd only have to add one character, a space, to make this exactly match my specified or desired answer. So the Levenshtein distance is 1, and the answer is evaluated as correct. In this case, probably the obvious wrong answer to this, where the student answered 2 space 7/16 inch, 7/16 of an inch, instead of 7/8, that is counted appropriately wrong because there's 2 characters difference here from my specified answer. So that worked. Third attempt, let's go to fourth attempt. Here we start to see some possible problems with this sort of evaluation method. The student submitted 1 space 7/8 space inch, which is clearly wrong, though it's hard to see a student would really miss that, anything other than totally accidentally. But this answer is marked correct because there's only one character difference. It's a change of a 2 to a 1. And so the student would inappropriately get credit for the question in this case. This method is not perfect either, though it is less likely to result in a student losing points that they deserve to have. Also, if the student wrote something like 2 7/9 of an inch instead of 7/8 of an inch, they'd still be given credit because this just involved the transition of an 8 to a 9. Or to convert this into my correct answer, I'd only have to replace that 9 with an 8. So another undesirable result from the instructor's point of view anyway. And if the student were not specifically instructed to type out the full name of the unit, if they use an abbreviation like IN for inch, well, they'd get it counted wrong in this case because we only allowed for a Levenshtein distance of 1, and there's 2 characters difference here. The C and the H have been replaced by nulls. So I'd have to add a C and an H here to turn this back into my actual answer, or my desired answer, and that's not allowed by a Levenshtein distance of 1. So another less than successful evaluation. And finally, here we have an answer of 2 7/8 inches, the plural of the unit. If the student were not cautioned against that, the addition of the E and the S on the end of the word inch would again exceed the Levenshtein distance, and the student would be marked wrong for an answer that was really correct. So there are no such things as perfect systems for evaluating the validity of fill-in-the-blank answers in an online testing system like this. Let's just take a look at a couple more examples of that here. We'll go back to our quizzes list again and look at another question, another fill-in-the-blank question, where perhaps the Levenshtein distance evaluation works a little better. I'll look at attempt 1. The question was, the third president of the United States, looks like I flunked spelling the word president there, was Thomas Jefferson. Thomas space Jefferson. And in creating this question, I told the system to ignore case, so this would be fine if it were lowercase t and j as well. How about attempt 2? The student just probably as a result of a typo leaves out one of the F's in Jefferson. It's still counted right. The Levenshtein distance on this one was 2, or was set to 2. So the student could actually screw up worse than that and still get it counted right. They could leave the A and the S off of Jefferson's first name, for instance, and still get it correct. Or, finally, they could leave out a letter and mistype a letter, the I and the O being next to one another on a QWERTY keyboard. That's not an unlikely possibility. And the student still, who obviously can at least say the right answer, is given credit. So in less critical fill-in-the-blank questions, where spelling and typing are more of an issue than precise numbers and spelling and units and things like that are in play, the close enough or the Levenshtein distance method probably a little bit more appropriate or a little bit more reliable. But in any case, this method does allow you to make it less likely that a student will know the answer and still be counted wrong on a fill-in-the-blank question because of carelessness or an inability to spell. And that's our overview of fill-in-the-blank questions in new quizzes in Canvas.